This certainly has been the worst in my lifetime. We've had a huge rally because governments everywhere have printed and spent staggering amounts of money. But David, it just means the next time it's going to be worse still. Unless you think we'll never have economic problems and market problems again, the next one's going to be worse because the debt. David, in 2008, we had a problem because of debt. Since then, the debt has skyrocketed everywhere in the world. So unless you think we're not ever going to have problems again, then the next one's going to be worse, unless you know something I don't know. It can get worse. People say it can get worse. Throughout history, go back into the 19th century, we just use America alone. We've had some staggering economic difficulties at times, but Europe too. Some of the largest banks in the world went bankrupt in previous economic hard times. Some companies that people never thought could go bankrupt collapsed. Don't think it cannot happen. It has happened, and it will happen again. Never had anybody been so deep in debt. David, since then, the U.S. has increased its debt by trillions, with a T, trillions more. If you give me a few $1 trillion, I will show you a very, very good time. We will all have a wonderful time with a few $1 trillion. But David, somebody eventually has to pay the price, because somebody has to worry about paying it back. These days are not good for old people. They are not at all good for young people. Right now, there's an election in November. Everybody wants to be reelected. So they're doing everything they can to be reelected, but it is leaving a very, very bad aftertaste.
Well, what's happening now, of course, is, at least in my view, there is a huge reaction to the virus. In my view, it's an overreaction. We've had pandemics before. As recently as 2009 in the U.S., we had the H1N1 virus. Well, we didn't close McDonald's. Delta didn't stop flying. The world didn't come to an end. And this has happened before. It seems to me that for whatever reason, a few months ago, politicians or media or somebody started overreacting, and now the whole world is closed down. Sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, and that's what seems to be happening now, if you ask me. Do not think that I'm saying it's wonderful to get the virus. Do not say I think it's wonderful to be sick or to die. I'm certainly not, and I'm in the age group which would be most vulnerable to the virus. But no, I wish that we could go back and start over, keep calm, and handle this in a more reasonable way. The world is really going to suffer. You see what Washington is doing, not just Washington, everywhere. The politicians are printing staggering amounts of money, spending staggering amounts of money. Every day in Japan, the Bank of Japan goes, the head cranks up the printing presses, prints money as fast as he can, buys ETFs, buys bonds. Now he has permission to buy stocks. Every day he just buys as much as he can print. But it's happening. The U.S. is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, Robert. And look what we're doing. Another few trillion. I feel sorry for everybody in the U.S. I feel sorry. My kids, young people in the U.S., Robert, I don't know how they're going to cope. In 1920, the UK was the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number two. And then they started doing the same thing. They went nuts. And now the UK is not even in the top 20 anymore. Still there, but the standard of living compared to what the UK had then and now is dramatic different. So I feel sorry for young people in the US. I feel sorry for you and me, but I certainly feel sorry for young people.
I don't know how much money we have to print to save everybody now that we shut everybody down. So I was just wondering what your crystal ball might say the difference between 1929 and 2020.
Well, as far as how much we'd have to print, and I'll come back to your question specifically, in the Bank of Japan, they said, we will print unlimited. That's his word, unlimited amounts of money. I said, he cranks that printing press up and runs it as fast as he can. The UK, they said, we will do whatever it takes. The EU, same thing. They're all printing, and you know what's happening in Washington. I mean, you're there in Phoenix, so you know what's happening in Washington. How much it will take? Unfortunately, because of what the U.S., what everybody's doing, closing down everything, it's going to be very hard to recover because huge damage is being done. I'll give you one small story. There are millions. I live in Singapore. There's a guy here who has some Michelin restaurants. He's got a few restaurants. He's a successful restaurateur. He's having to sell his wine cellar. I'm buying some of it, but things are that bad. And when and if he can open again, he's going to be at least $2 million in debt. And he's never had debt in his whole life. And, has no wine cellar. So, I mean, this is the sort of damage. I'm just using that one small restaurateur as an example. This is the sort of damage that's being done to many companies, many people, many families around the world. You're right about the 1929 and now. This is a big difference. And another difference, by the way, in 1929 and now is the U.S. was not a huge debtor. The U.S. are now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and we are adding to it as fast as we can. There's an election in November, Robert. They all want to get reelected. They don't care about you and me. They don't care about my kids. They care about getting reelected. Well, I'm afraid I care about more than that.